said, the worst thing that can happen is it'll probably help you out. And so I mulled this over for days, and it kind of tortured me because I was like, you know what? I know I'm not going back to college. I know that's a fucking cul-de-sac. That's a dead fucking end. But, but the halfway house is a little more interesting to me because I'm sort of infiltrating as an investigative journalist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sort of sharpening my blades. I know I'm going to be having to live with the scum of the earth. And I know on the other side of that coin, I'm probably going to have to be living with CEOs and professionals who were playing life large and lost their way and got fucking engrossed in substance abuse. So I was like, I'm probably going to get both ends of the spectrum. And why don't I go in here and learn to rise rank and earn my stripes and just see if I can dominate? And so he dresses me down. He gives me a whole rundown. He's like, here's the deal. You're going to go into the program 90 days. Boom. You're going to say you're an alcoholic. Boom. You're going to do intensive therapy groups every day. They're going to be doing psychoanalysis. You're going to be, doing massive, intensive reflections, meditation, all this shit. Where do you think I get all my fucking critiques of all these policies? You know what I'm saying? Like, the pieces are starting to come together. So I finally decide that I'm going to build my own curriculum. Fuck college. Why don't I go here for 90 days, muscle up against some of these characters, and let's just see how far I can take this. Let's see what I can learn. Let's see if I can do a psychoanalysis on the very people who are doing it on me. Let me go into the belly of the beast where the behavior analysis are and the psychoanalysts. Let me do my own little fucking psychoanalysis on these people. Let's see what they're up to. Let's see what their flaws are. Let's see how fallible they are. So I finally convinced myself that, you know what? What the fuck is 90 days? I mean, 3 months is an eternity when you're insulated, right? Because these halfway houses, they're heavily incubated. You go into them and they don't let you have a phone. They strip you down. It's very regimented. It's very militant. You have a curfew. You're following rules. There's a ton of fucking authority. Um, all that shit. All the shit that I fucking hate, by the way. Like, I naturally don't like authority. Everything that I naturally don't like. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just go against the grain? Because like old boy said, the worst thing that can happen is it can help me out. I'm going to get housing. I'm going to be fed for 90 days. And it's just going to be a fucking journey. It's going to be an experience. So let me throw myself into the wolves and the jackals and see if I can come out of this. And let's see what happens. So he books my plane ticket. And I'm not going to say where it was, but it was in some fucking podunk town, in fucking Timbuktu, which at the time was completely anathema to the way I was living, right? I was making money hand over fist. I was doing drone sales. I lived in a very nice neighborhood. I had a very, very upscale upbringing, etc. And I was about to go into the complete polar opposite domain. I'm talking like a shithole. But I was kind of excited about it because I just kind of wanted that rough-hewn style of living for a second, just to get my perspective back, just to get my bearings. So he books me this flight, and I get to the airport, and it's a little fucking 30-seater. Little fucking rinky-dink, little fucking aluminum canister as a fucking plane. And we pop into the air, and the fucking turbulence the entire time was literally out of the fucking Twilight Zone. Like, I remember literally thinking that plane was going down like 10 or 12 times during the flight. This thing was fucking tiny. And there was like 3 people on the flight. And the whole time I'm just like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? And I was like, you know what? It's just going to be a fucking journey. You're just going to come out of this with another fucking battle scar and another fucking story to tell. Remember, I'm going to Oxford in my head, right? Because like I'm about to get a street education. Because I know living with these types of people ain't easy. I know these are some of the most difficult personalities on earth. You know what I mean? These people are unruly. They're uncivilized. And so I just kind of wanted a piece of that. Especially because I was sort of a different constitution, of a different ilk. So, of course, I had a very late night flight. and we touch down and it's pitch black. I can't see anything. I can't even see the terrain. I can't see the landscape. I have no idea if it's a shithole or not. I can't even really make out the houses. So the driver of the halfway house picks me up in this fucking druggie van. You know those white druggie vans? And he swoops me from the airport, and we're driving along, and I'm just trying to like make out the faint shapes of the houses while we're driving. I'm like, where the fuck am I? It was like a 15-minute drive, and finally we pull up to this little shanty. Literal little fucking shanty, little fucking house. Fucking this place was a fucking literal. It literally looked like a meth den. It looked like a meth den. And we pull up, and I have no idea what to expect. I didn't ask any questions on the way home. I was just fucking silent, just looking out the window, gearing up for the ride. So I walk into the front door, and they had this huge, like, mahogany dining room table in the house. And all the people that lived in the house happened to be at the table when I walk in. And they're all filling out paperwork. I guess you had to chart your like weekly schedule and submit it to the house once a week. No joke. To something that I learned that was fascinating. All these motherfuckers, I think 13 of 14 dudes that I saw at the table were left-handed. There's some very strange correlation between left-handed people and addiction. Very, very prevalent. Now, I also happen to be left-handed, which I gave myself a chuckle. I thought that was funny because I was like, all right, I'm already blending right in. So I'm a lefty. These motherfuckers are lefties, and they're all at the table, and everyone's writing with their left hand. It was fucking bizarre. And so they take me into this little room. First thing, everybody kind of greets me. Everyone was kind of standoffish. They were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" I mean, at the time, I looked I didn't fit the demographic, which was a lot of these guys were fucking very small. They were emaciated. They looked like emaciated coyotes. They had fucking missing teeth. A lot of these guys, you know, they're coming off of fucking fentanyl. They're coming off of fucking heroin. They're meth addicts. They're doing some hardcore shit. So their physiques, their fucking heads are all fucked up. And I'm coming in there. I'm pretty brusque. I'm fucking robust. I was in really, really good shape at the time. I had fucking perfect pearly white teeth. So like, who's this motherfucker? So I walk in to the assessment room, and immediately they confiscate my cell phone. They confiscate my wallet. You couldn't have a debit card. You couldn't have money. You couldn't have cash. They had their own economy. They had their own economy within the confines of the system that you basically had to, you were confined by it. So they didn't want you using real world money. You couldn't have a cell phone, and you basically were being stripped down to zero. That's basically what the protocol was. And basically the whole tenet was, look, we're going to break you down to zero through these intensive groups. And you guys in the house are all going to hold each other accountable. And then we're going to build you back up. And once you've proven that you're built back up, then we're going to slowly start giving you your shit back. Tough pill to swallow, getting stripped of all my shit to go into this house. So basically my freedom has been severely hindered. And already I'm fucking squirming. I'm ready to fucking be like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm going back home. I can do this a better way. So the next morning, first of all, that night I get put in a room with like 3 other dudes who happen to be like the most hardcore fucking drug addicts in the house. So I'm like the 4th bed. And we had 4 individual beds in a room, and there were like 4 bedrooms, and everyone had 4 beds in the rooms. So I'm stuck with these dudes. These motherfuckers are snoring. They're having fucking crack withdrawals in the middle of the night. They're screaming. They're having bad dreams. I'm just fucking laying in my bed staring at the ceiling and shit. Like, what the fuck have I gotten myself into? It was a fucking madhouse. It was an asylum. For all intents and purposes, I really was in an asylum. So the next morning, they take me into the official center, which you had to drive down this very, very twisty, windy road. You had to go downtown through a city, and you had to go to an actual center where they have like almost like seminars. So you go see different counselors and you're with a group the entire day. It's like 8 hours of intensive therapy. They're discussing your fucking inner child, your child history, your past. They're going through the whole panoply of your past to try to sort out why you do what you do, why you have the tendencies that you have. And they take me to the health counselor to do a small physical. And they're like, by the way, we give you your own little debit card that's preloaded and we give you a food budget. And I was like, what's the food budget? $100 a week. 100 fucking bucks a week for food. And they made us shop at Walmart. At fucking Walmart. So at the time, I'm already very deep into the carnivore diet. And my diet was extremely strict and it was extremely important to me because health was everything. Health was the cornerstone of my philosophy at this time. And I was like, how the fuck am I going to make this shit work on $100 a week? It made zero sense to me. I was like, I'm going to fucking starve. So we go through the first day. That was the first rub. I was like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to last. I truly thought I was going to last maybe 48 hours and then just bounce. First day of therapy was insane. You got guys fucking crying. You got guys reading fucking letters that their parents have read to them that were horrifying. All the damage that their drug addictions had caused their families. Really, really fucking sordid tales to be a part of. And I'm over here and shit, and I gotta fucking claim I'm an alcoholic. And I'm just sort of treating it as a way to just kind of examine my own past. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start coming forth with some of my own stuff just to see if shit can stick or if this could be beneficial. I was like, I might as well engross myself in the curriculum, right? Like I'm here. So I might as well participate and see if I can get any benefit out of it. So I met this dude in the house who was the most mischievous motherfucker in the house. This dude was getting busted. He was getting in trouble every fucking day. He was smuggling in contraband at a different rehab, got banned. He would fucking smuggle in phones when you're not supposed to. It was a co-ed facility, so the females had their own house, and then you would participate with the girls during the day in the intensive group therapy, and then you would go to the men's house and they would go to the females' house. Now, obviously, one of the first rules they tried to tell you cannot converse with the females. And if you know anything about real life, that's the first rule that everybody fucking breaks in these situations. The females and the males and shit were doing all sorts of crazy shit to meet up in the middle of the night. You had all sorts of fucking sexual dynamics and forces at play, even during the groups. Shit was crazy. Like you cannot, there's no way you can siphon off those energies. And they tried really hard. So the men and the women were doing all sorts of crazy shit, myself included. So this one dude, I really took a liking to him because he was just a fucking hard-headed, pugnacious motherfucker. Like this dude didn't he was very he was just mischievous. He didn't want to follow any of the fucking rules. He would clash with the counselors during the sessions. He would challenge them and shit. They would try to pry into his personal life and he would fucking always clap back. He was super fucking witty. And he happened to also be a meth head. And this dude's brain was cooked, by the way. Absolutely fucking fried. And yet, he was the wittiest, funniest motherfucker I'd ever met. Funniest motherfucker I ever met. You know, some of these addicts, like some of these guys who deal with severe substance abuse, they they almost have an aura of immortality to them. It's very hard to explain, but if you've ever seen someone who drinks like a fish or like a functioning alcoholic or guys that have OD'd several times, there's just some guys that you just can't kill. You just can't kill. And these guys always, always, always have an incredible sense of humor. They always do. They always just have this sort of light sense of life. They don't take it too seriously and they're always funny as fuck. And this was one of those guys. I mean, this guy should have been dead like hundreds of times in his life. And he was just an unkillable force for whatever reason. He just had a really fucking fighting spirit. He had a brutal spirit that was just really, really indomitable. And he loved his frame was incredible, by the way. Like, he would get attacked and swarmed by these fucking counselors that are trying to like tame this motherfucker. They're trying to break this dude down. And this dude was just unfazed. I mean, I would just watch him just so passe. He was just so fucking blasé. He would parry and repost every fucking attack like a professional fencer. This motherfucker was just impervious. He was just completely impervious, and you could never make him crack a smile. You could never make him crack a grin. And keep in mind, this motherfucker didn't study game. This motherfucker knew nothing about red pill, but he had more game than any motherfucker I had ever met up to this point. The sickest frame I've ever seen. I mean, I saw this dude getting fucking bullied, getting massacred by people with fucking doctorate degrees, credentials that would make your fucking head spin. They're professionals at twisting and turning the knife in the brain to get people to behave a certain way. And this dude was not breaking, unbreakable. So he became a really good friend of mine in the house very early on. And, you know, the first spread of my influence over the house is everyone noticed when we would go to Walmart, all I would buy were those disgusting 5-pound cylinders of fucking ground beef. This shit's like 70% protein, 30% fat. It's basically fucking dog food. But the shit was dirt cheap. Like, you could literally get a 5-pound cylinder of beef from Walmart. I'm not kidding, for like $4. And so I would take my $100 a week. We had a tobacco budget too. So I was chain smoking, but I was just stocking up on these fucking cylinders of beef, and nobody could fucking believe it because I was in a podunk like country bumpkin town. So nobody could understand why I didn't eat vegetables. They were like, you don't eat fruit. These people's carts were fucking pathetic, by the way. Soy milk, almond milk, fucking Coca-Cola, like the most fucking pathetic diet. The way these people allocated their $100 was mind-blowingly fascinating to me. When we would go to the store and I would just see what these fucking addicts were putting into their body. I mean, these dudes were literally running on like AM, PM root beer and shit. Like, literally running on root beer. And they were spry and they were lively as fuck. And that's where I started to really kind of dissect the whole diet optimization thing. I was like, wait a minute. These kids, not only are they withdrawing from hardcore drugs, but they're up at 5 a.m. ready to do their fucking routines. We were forced to go to the gym and shit. And these motherfuckers were running circles around people energetically. I mean, just like infinite fucking pistols of energy running around. And they had no nutrition. They were completely fucking nutritionally defunct. Anyway, I'm over here fucking eating my fucking meat and shit, cooking it up. It was a shared kitchen. You had to do fucking chores. There was like a real fucking collaborative environment in the house. And there's obviously hostility. Everyone's got different opinions. Everyone's got different fucking morals. Everyone's got different values. There's clashing. There's fucking fights. People are fucking eating other people's food and shit. Very kind of prison-esque in the economic system within the house. So very quickly, I become sort of like a mythological figure because of the condition that my body was in. No one could understand how the fucking alcoholic looked so good. Because I just had no traces or remnants of decay like these motherfuckers did. So pretty soon, after a couple weeks, the entire house converts to carnivore. Every single motherfucker in the house is copying my diet, eating like me. And they had to call a special meeting at the center because it became a huge problem because the counselors thought that I was essentially manipulating and taking over and dominating the house. And they found it very concerning because, you know, you got to understand these people are withdrawing from drugs. They're on a very they're very impressionable is what I want to say. They're very impressionable. They're very susceptible to dogma because they're identityless. And so all these motherfuckers are eating carnivore and shit. It was a huge fucking talk of the group. They were like, what do we do about this? This is bizarre. They had a gym in the backyard. Rusty motherfucking gym. Like, The kind of gym where when you use these weights, you want to get a tetanus shot afterwards. This shit was fucking rusty. The weights were all bent and shit. I had everyone out there doing cleans, deadlifts. I literally started like my own little fucking military battalion. Like everyone was on my fucking routine. They were eating like me. I was educating them about health, nutrition. We would have these little fireside chats every night in the house. And all these dudes would just be picking my brain about nutrition and shit, and I would just blow their mind about the, evolutionary biology, the brain evolved, blah blah blah, fat, saturated fat, it's good for you. Just sort of breaking the mold of all these lies that you get fed in some of these poorer socioeconomically repressed societies. And so I'm just bringing the thunder, and I got called in one day and they had to separate me. They thought about putting me in a completely different house by myself, treating me like fucking Hannibal Lecter, because they felt like I was having way too much influence over the people, and the clients in the house were starting to kind of rebel and be a little bit kind of churlish towards the counselors, because there was this sort of, there was this culture of fitness and this sort of enthusiasm in the house that hadn't been there before. So the counselors really didn't know what to do with it. And then we keep doing the intensive therapy, and these sessions were they were fucking the most, it was the greatest education, sitting through these classes and just listening to the modern mainstream approach that they have towards treating like mental illnesses. Like all of these guys in the house, for all their flaws, truly had fucking sparks of genius that I could clearly see. And they were being smelted down. They were being smelted down and being homogenized and essentially going to get a spiritual lobotomy, is what it felt like. Because they were being told that they're powerless over their lives, they're powerless over their addictions, they're powerless. That was the fucking mantra. The mantra is you are powerless and you must surrender. And that's what these guys were being fed in these classes, is that they have zero control over their impulses, and that if they do not follow this 12-step program, this 12 steps to emancipation, to clemency, that they would essentially crash their lives and never be able to recover. And they were told that if you engage in any kind of risky behavior, you're on a slippery slope and you'll probably use again. And you could see it. You could see these dudes drinking the Kool-Aid, and you could slowly see their edges just being melted away into dust. Into dust. A spiritual lobotomy. I started to see the life force just being ripped out of them, because they were just absolutely being fear-mongered and essentially bullied into not understanding, which is what I always tell you guys, is that your flaws, the things that you do that destroy yourself, are obviously your gifts. They're just misplaced. They're just completely misplaced. And if you take that energy and you redirect it and you harness it, it's obvious you can be an extraordinary figure. It's obvious, because it's just a flick of the dial turned in a different direction. Now, these guys were just getting pulverized. I could see them in the sessions pretending. They were definitely fucking pretending to go through the motions and to say that they're never going to drink again, they're never going to do drugs again, and they were speaking in these absolute terms. Now, I know from experience, anytime you see a motherfucker speaking in grand proclamations, it's a fucking huge fall waiting to happen. And what I started to see was these guys would, essentially what they were doing was they were building up a lot of tension by becoming sober, because the sobriety became the identity, is what I was really seeing. These guys would literally get dopamine hits, getting 30-day clean chips at the AA meetings that we were forced to go to. And at these meetings, they would get these massive rounds of applause and ovations for their sobriety. And it dawned on me that a lot of these people because the recidivism rate, you have to understand, in these programs is like 99%. It's not like these programs, the retention is basically next to zero. Like anybody who goes through a 12-step program, the chance that they go back and use again is almost guaranteed. And so what happens is a lot of these guys go in there and they're building up a fucking fireball of tension so they can go back out and go on the most glorious, extravagant bender they've ever gone in their entire life. But they need this sort of spiritual reset in order to kind of build up the health reserves to sustain it. So that's what they're doing. They're kind of getting their health back. They're getting their perspective back. They're getting their mind back because they know eventually down the road they want to do it again because they're leaning into the wrong thing. Their eye is on the wrong fucking thing. If you self-denial, self-resistance does not work. If you there are many motherfuckers in this society who are functioning very high functioning alcoholics and functioning drug users. That's just a fucking fact. Nature is cruel. Some motherfuckers have leaned into their nature so hard. They have binged the thing that has brought them to their knees so hard that they've essentially consumed its spirit. Like there are dudes who've drunken. They are so pickled. They're pickled by alcohol consumption, and they've basically consumed its spirit. It no longer has the same effect that it would on somebody else because they've done it so fucking much. Now, there is a book called Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am not kidding you. If you I don't give a fuck if you've ever had a drink in your life. This book is a classic text. It is better than the Odyssey. It's better than the fucking Odyssey. It should be required reading for every fucking child. Literally, every teenager growing up should be forced to read this book, Alcoholics Anonymous. It is a it is the deepest dive into human psychology that you could possibly undertake. You have to go get a copy of this book and read the fucking stories in there. You have to read about the misplaced passion of some of these addicts and the indomitable spirit. I mean, these guys should have been dead. They should have been turned over in the grave hundreds of times, and somehow they came out unscathed to the other side. It is the most remarkable fight, the internal struggle, the fight. These guys are unrelenting. Unrelenting. They have a mission. It's a misguided mission. It's a misguided mission, but they do have a mission. And a lot of these guys had emblazoned careers that would blow your mind while they were getting fucking plastered, and they were somehow keeping the jigsaw pieces together. And they're wearing many hats, and they're wearing many masks, and they're juggling this double life. They're fucking, getting plastered and torched on the weekend, and then they're fucking running these massive companies during the week. All those stories are in that book. And it's absolutely fucking incredible what dedication to a solitary thing, even though a lot of the stories are very tragic. I'm a very non-judgmental person. I like interesting people. I like interesting things. I like to read about interesting things. I'll read about Hitler. I don't give a fuck. I just want to read about interesting events. So when I read this book, even as someone who's never abused alcohol, I could completely relate to some of the obsession, some of the desire to wrestle with the human spirit and kind of understand these things. These guys, I'm telling you, because they were addicted to whatever drug or whatever substance it was, they had this superhuman ability to all their insecurities washed away. By the way, they had there was no self-consciousness, there was no insecurity, there was no nitpicking. They were immune. They were walking through life completely immune to the opinions of others, and these guys were getting laid left and right. And I was reading this shit, and I was like, God, these guys are so fucking dysfunctional. Their lives are a fucking mess. but they have no shortage of women in their life. They have no shortage of careers in their life. They have no shortage of opportunity. I'm talking about the high functioning ones. And what was interesting to me is it was just glaringly obvious that when I would read these stories, even though they were addicted to what society would call a terrible thing, and of course, some of these lives were absolutely damaged and permanently ruined, the interesting thing was because they were obsessed with a mission, it didn't matter that the mission wasn't glorious. It was a mission. The fact that they would do anything, they would run through your fucking chest to score a magnum of alcohol, they had the admiration and adulation from their peers. Like every character in the stories in that book had women that would ride or die till the bitter end with them. And they had friends that would fucking take bullets for them. Because the people on the peripheral could not comprehend that somebody could be so zealous for a cause that made zero fucking sense in practicality. Zero fucking sense in practicality. But it just shows you the power of a mission. And that's why these addicts became addicted. Because when they drink and they do these substances, what happens is the sense of self dissolves. They have, I'm telling you, they have zero self-consciousness. They don't have any insecurities. It all goes away. They become superhuman and they become addicted to the feeling. They become addicted to the feeling of not clashing with the ordinary fears of the common man. They no longer have to worry about the things that ordinary people worry about. It all washes away. And that's why they wake up every morning and they can't stop hitting the bottle. Because they never have to feel the pain of self-analysis. It gets them completely out of their head into the spiritual realm. And they can't get enough of it because it is a superpower to a degree for a lot of these people. And so, obviously, if these motherfuckers shifted just a tiny flick of the dial with that passion that they have to just literally score a fucking bottle or score some crack, whatever the fuck it is. If it was a turn of a dial the other way, they would be the top of the class in every fucking domain. They would be annihilating the competition, annihilating it. But the removal of self from the equation is what was so fucking interesting with these guys. I mean, the guy that I was telling you about that had the iron frame, this motherfucker didn't have an insecure bone in his body. And here's another interesting fucking wrinkle. It turned out, I ended up finding out, okay, here's something that'll fucking blow your mind. The two most masculine motherfuckers that I have ever met in my life, I'm talking not a faggoty bone in their body that you could tell from the surface. Nothing. No remnants of bitch in their heart. I'm talking like brawlers, dudes with iron frame, dudes with virtues, dudes with honor, all the shit that you motherfuckers talk about on right-wing Twitter. Like, these dudes embodied that to a T. It turned out that super masculine homie of mine with that iron frame, I found out after the program he was gay. He was completely gay, had no interest in women. Camille Paglia, the political commentator, the anti-feminist, she's a fucking genius. She says in one of her books, I forget what book it was, but I remember reading it somewhere. She said that gay men were the guardians of masculinity. I never understood that quote. I never understood that quote at all, but I did find it fucking interesting that literally the two most masculine men that I have ever fucking come across in my life were 100% homosexual. Don't know why that is, but this dude would, when me and him would be walking to the center sometimes, because as we went through the program, they'd give you more and more freedom, and you were able to kind of walk, and you were able to kind of like side skirt the vans. They would slowly give you your freedom back. There was a night where this motherfucker wielding a rake or like some kind of hoe for raking brush, was wielding it, and he was drunk off his ass. It was like an older guy. We were walking by a parking lot. This dude was wielding this thing like a weapon, and he came at us. And this dude interdicted the attack, and he threw himself right in front of the dude and me. And he's like, yo, 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 you're not getting anywhere near him with that. And he was ready to literally take that thing to the side of the dome for me, for whatever reason. So it's like, I know tons of straight motherfuckers who wouldn't do shit like that. I know tons of dudes who would fucking bitch out a situation like that. This motherfucker was about it. And I've always just fucking found that interesting. I've never been able to kind of unpack and fucking figure out why that is. I'm sure some of you fucking smart motherfuckers can DM me and give me a good analysis on that one. But that one was definitely fucking interesting to me. I mean, this dude was always ready to brawl. He was always ready to fucking have your back. When we were doing the bartering system and the economy within the house, there would be times where I would run out of my budget because I would want this fucking like really good coffee, and I would run out of my money, and there would literally be days where I had no food. This motherfucker would give me his food in his fridge, and he would starve for like 2 days. Like, he was just a fucking homie. The dude was just, he had my back the entire time we were there, fucking cracking jokes every day. And I had zero clue, literally zero indication that this dude was gay. Zero. There is no FBI profiler on earth who could have fucking figured it out. I mean, he was just fucking as masculine as they come. So then, so as we're going through the system, and we're kind of getting our freedom back, and everyone's smoking cigs, and we still got the whole gym regiments going on and shit, and I'm just kind of learning about the addict mind. I'm learning about why these guys do what they do. I'm learning about their self-destructive tendencies. I'm hearing harrowing letters from their family. Their family is writing in letters to the group, and they have to read them out loud, like the way they've damaged their families. Some of it, the shit was fucking heartbreaking to listen to. I mean, absolutely fucking heartbreaking. Some of the things that these guys did to their family to get drugs was just sickening, completely fucking sickening. But these people had the biggest hearts. They were fucking ruthless. They were fucking ruthless when it came to scoring drugs. But when it came time for loyalty or friendship or to give you the shirt off their back, these motherfuckers would show up for you. Every single one of them had a massive fucking heart. Massive fucking heart. Some of these dudes were killers. Some of these dudes in the rehab had done 12 years in prison, 15 years in prison for DUIs and shit. They've fucking manslaughter. There were tons of fucking crazy shit that was going on in there. And these dudes had the biggest fucking hearts. And they were full of life, and it was just fucking mind blowing to be a part of this and to realize that these dudes were just a little bit misguided. And when I say a little bit, I really mean a minuscule amount. Life really is a game of inches. It's a game of inches. If your personality corkscrews just a little bit to the left, you ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna make it. It's the system of life, the human animal is very, very, very well calibrated. And if anything is off kilter, even by just a millimeter, the whole fucking system comes collapsing down. That's what I've noticed the most. Is you just turn the dial on some of these things in these people, and you can completely turn them the other way. Now, the guy who got in trouble smuggling the contraband. So when I was there, I was gambling was banned. Gambling was banned in the house because they felt that any kind of risky activity was a slippery slope for the other addicts in the house. Now, when I was there, I had a phone also smuggled into me by one of these guys. And I started up the drone sales business again while I was in the confines of the home. So I was in this fucking house where you're not even supposed to have a phone, you're not working, there's no economy. I started up the business again, and I started having this dude and a couple other guys in the house working for me during the day. At off hours, we were all sneaking in the phones, and we were making money. We were actually making pretty decent money while we were in the house. And I'm not going to get into the whole mechanism, but the banking system that we had set up was very clever. You become very industrious and you become very resourceful when you're in these environments, by the way. Like, the things that you conjure in your head when you're sitting all fucking day in a boring house in a backyard smoking cigarettes. You have no phone. You have literally ample time to do anything. Your mind just starts fucking solving problems. And me and these dudes literally figured out how to fucking run a business from a fucking fake shell phone from fucking Walmart out of our fucking pockets that we were hiding in the fucking pottery outside. And so we were making money. And the entire time I was in the house, I was gambling. I was placing crazy bets while I was there. Crazy motherfucking bets. And if they had ever found out that I was betting while I was there, they would have kicked me out because they felt that I was a liability for the rest of the crew. So again, my whole purpose of infiltrating the situation was to see how dominant I could be in a very restricted environment. Like, how can I take over? Okay, that's one layer of it. The second layer of it, the house managers were very, very fucking strict. They were all former addicts themselves, so they were well versed in the program, and they knew sort of the tug of war between the personalities. They knew how to they knew how to intercede, and they knew how to deal with sort of every personality. Now, the whole name of the game when I was in that environment was winning over the house managers. There were certain house managers that would give you flexibility and leniency and let you do certain things that other ones wouldn't. I had these fucking house managers wrapped around my fucking finger. It was insane. What you learn about these institutions and these environments is everything is fucking corrupt. Everything is fucking corrupt when it comes to power and it comes to exchange and it comes to making motherfuckers feel good. It's all about that exchange of value. You guys know what I'm talking about. These guys would fucking they would relish letting, I want to say, the leader of the group break the rules. They were letting me go out with girls in the middle of the night. They would let me sneak out at midnight and shit. I'd come back into the house at like 5 a.m., pretend I was sleeping. All sorts of fucking crazy rules were being broken. The guy would fucking take me privately in the van sometimes and pick me up on the side of the road, and you'd fucking take me to a nice restaurant and shit. We'd get like good steaks and he'd put it on the company card. All sorts of fucking crazy shit was going on in these fucking houses. And that's why I was there. I was there just to see if I could dominate, number one. Number two, I wanted the education. I really wanted to understand the mind frame of these guys, and I wanted to see how fast I could advance and rise to power, earn my fucking stripes. Could I go in there and was I gonna bully or was I gonna get bullied? It was that simple to me. It was fucking dog eat dog. So I'm fucking having the time of my life. I'm fucking getting driven around. I'm getting fucking steak dinners. I'm getting the guy's getting smuggling all the fucking nice cigarettes to me on the side, the fucking organic shit. These motherfuckers were smoking Marlboro Reds. I'm going out. I'm meeting up with the chicks at night. I have no money. I have no money that I can physically touch. I'm making money in the drone business, but it's all stuck in a bank account, and I don't have my debit card. I don't have my driver's license because it's all locked up with the house. So I'm just stacking cash because I know in 90 days when I complete the program, I'm going to have a nice little bag to come home to. But during the time I was there, I was having a fucking blast. It was fun. We were fucking partying. We were doing all sorts of shit you're not supposed to be doing. And it's funny because the rules just bent to us because there was like this collaboration. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of at the top, then I had the guy beneath me, and everyone was kind of playing their part, and everyone was playing it perfectly. No one was fucking welching on each other. There were no fucking moles. It was just like house managers were loosening up. They were fucking confiding in us. I had the house manager, like, he was a confidant. Motherfuckers were drinking and doing drugs and shit in other fucking rooms, which they weren't supposed to be doing. It was fucking insane. But as you can imagine, when you're in these super strict, tight environments, these kind of underground things pop up. Of course they do. You know what I mean? It's like during COVID when the fucking speakeasies and shit would come back. Motherfuckers were breaking rules. Like, it became like that. I do remember there was one time where somebody got caught with a phone, and we had such a fitness culture because I had everyone doing the fucking power cleans and the deadlifts and shit. They actually banned the weight room for like 2 weeks. That was our punishment. The house could not lift weights because they felt like the weights, and I found this very interesting from a clinical perspective because these therapists were very, very textbook in the way that they proceeded with mandating punishments, and the stuff that they did for the clients in the house was very fucking detail oriented. It was very regimented. Like, they had a textbook way of dealing with everything. The fact that they attacked the gym was the most eye-opening thing to me, because obviously everything else is downstream from fitness and health. And they took that away from us as a fucking fuck you. As a fuck you for smuggling in the phones. And they knew that everybody in the house knew about the phone and no one shared it with the superiors. And so they wanted to bring us all down. And they fucking banned, of all the things that they could ban. And by the way, this house had been around, I think, for like 18 years. It was unprecedented. Fitness had never been on the table as a form of punishment. They never even thought or dreamed of banning fitness. But this particular crew that we had, they felt that the fitness was the key to liberation. They felt that we were using our strength and our kind of military regimen in the gym to kind of get fucking wild ideas. They felt that. They felt that it was the funnel that was kind of the lightning rod that was kind of sparking a lot of this sort of rebellious behavior within the house. And it was fucking hilarious because when they banned the gym, then we were all fucking doing calisthenics. We were all doing like handstand push-ups against the wall. It was fucking crazy. It never fucking ended.